It is Sunday, February 14th, and welcome to another episode of Legal Briefs. I'm Wes Austin. I'm a lawyer trying to keep you updated on the latest legal news. Yesterday, Donald Trump was acquitted. The Senate had their vote. The vote was 57 to 43 to convict, but that was not a supermajority as needed, so Donald Trump was acquitted. There were 7 Republican senators who voted to convict Donald Trump, and those 7 senators were Richard Burr of North Carolina, Bill Cassidy of Louisiana, Susan Collins of Maine, Lisa Murkowski of Alaska, Mitt Romney of Utah, Ben Sasse of Nebraska, and Pat Toomey of Pennsylvania. So, because Donald Trump was acquitted, that means he can run for office again in 2024. Will he? We will have to wait and see. Now, this impeachment trial only lasted 5 days, which is crazy short. The other impeachment trial that was the next shortest was actually Donald Trump's first impeachment trial, and I believe that was 21 days. And I believe Bill Clinton's impeachment trial lasted 5 weeks. So 5 days is super fast, very quick. Just to refresh your memory, so this trial started with a vote on whether it was constitutional or not. So there were arguments as to whether it was constitutional for the Senate to conduct the trial for Donald Trump because he was no longer in office. They had a vote, and the Senate said it was constitutional. That vote was 56 to 44. So then they proceeded with the substantive part of the trial, talking about the article of impeachment. Now, yesterday, so Saturday, we almost ended up extending this trial for weeks. The House managers decided they wanted to call witnesses. And so they had a vote in the Senate to see if they could call witnesses. And the Senate said, yes, you can call witnesses. I think that vote was 55 to 45 to allow witnesses. So that caused a lot of chaos. A lot of people were like, what in the crap is going on? So that would have extended the trial for weeks. I mean, I don't know, March, April. I mean, way out there. And then just as fast as this came out of nowhere saying, we're going to call witnesses, they said, just kidding, we're not going to call witnesses anymore. I don't know what that's about, but they were going to call them. Everybody freaked out. Then they said, just kidding, we're not. And in lieu of that, they were going to enter one statement into the record instead of calling witnesses. Now, as you may recall, there was one article of impeachment, and it was that Donald Trump committed a high crime and misdemeanor for inciting the insurrection that took place on January 6th. So that is what the House managers were trying to prove in the trial. And they didn't get enough senators to agree to that, so they lost. I don't know. Here's what I think. Do you care what I think? I'm going to tell you anyway. I think they probably actually lost this at the drafting of the article of impeachment, because having the article of impeachment be incitement of insurrection, that's going to be really tough for them to prove given the language. The legal case of incitement of insurrection. I think they probably needed to spend more time on the articles of impeachment and have some other articles there that they're going to be arguing, but they just had one, incitement and insurrection. Okay, so why did the Senate acquit Donald Trump in the impeachment trial? Well, they didn't have enough senators who didn't like Donald Trump. I mean, just to be honest, but let's hypothetically assume that the senators were listening. They had to prove incitement of insurrection. That was the article of impeachment. And just from the get-go, that's a really tough legal case to make, incitement of insurrection. It has to, the words that were said have to be calling for something imminent. He has to be directing something imminent. Like right now, there needs to be an intent to do that. And they didn't spend a lot of time on the analysis of the words that he said and how that would prove that. There was a lot of time spent on what happened on January 6th, which was all terrible and awful. And everybody agrees to that. Everybody probably we stipulate to that. Yeah, it was terrible. But they spent a whole lot of time on that. Not a lot of time at all on the words and how that was an incitement, and looking at the case law that they have. And I know this is not incitement under a penal code. This is not some cause of action. That it's under the impeachment procedure of the Constitution, which is under the umbrella of, was it a high crime and misdemeanor? So it's kind of fuzzy on exactly what incitement of insurrection should mean. And it's also kind of a political question. So you're in the Senate with a bunch of politicians. So who knows what the crap's going to happen. But typically you've got those, it's got to be imminent action. You're causing this, you're directing it to happen imminently, like right now, with some kind of intent to make it happen. And it seemed like a lot of what they were talking about and saying seemed to show negligence, but negligence does not rise to the level of a high crime and misdemeanor, at least not in my view, because if you look back at what the framers of the Constitution, when they were writing it, one of the considerations for things that people could be impeached for was maladministration. They took that out. That sounds like negligence to me. So to me, that means, okay, negligence is not something that rises to the level of a high crime and misdemeanor. You don't go treason, bribery, high crime and misdemeanor. Negligence is just way down here. It's like maladministration. They specifically took it out because they did not want that to be something that people could be impeached for. Anyway, it looked like to me that the House managers in the trial, for the most part, that's kind of what they were showing, was there was negligence. It was not good. Things shouldn't have been said. It was careless or whatever. But crossing that line into incitement of an insurrection, I just don't think they really proved that based on what incitement should be. Anyway, again, I don't really think the senators were listening anyway, so I don't think that matters. They were going to vote however they were going to vote when this thing started. Thank you for tuning in. We'll see you next time.